and opportunities to take action. For nearly 2 decades, Citizens for Health has been a nonprofit pioneer in the natural health freedom movement. The Citizens for Health Education Foundation offers tools to inform the public of health issues and educate and influence policymakers. Jim Turner is here to spread the word about some of the most interesting topics that can affect your world, from the dangers of mislabeled or dangerous products to the questions and concerns of vaccines. You'll want to listen to Jim as he speaks on behalf of Citizens for Health. And now, on to our show with Jim Turner and Peter Mingils. Take it away, Peter.
By virtue of that election. Now, again, all this stuff is going on, and what strikes me about Trump and Giuliani is they seem to have stepped into a game that is way outside their ken, way outside their knowledge. It's as if they were really good badminton players and they ended up at the main course at Wimbledon. I mean, these are real forces. I mean, real forces. You know, and I look, you know, and I'm kind of curious to see that the most important single advisor to Biden for the last 40 years is now the chairman of his transition team, and he's a former 30 or 40-year employee of DuPont. Now, you know, I'm reasonably sure that we're not going to see big reform of the corporate sector under this particular framework. We may see an awful lot of unrest from the free side of the left and the right, saying we don't like being put upon by a corporate government complex. On the other hand, the corporate government complex has been crucial in doing things such as winning the Second World War. So we want to be really, really careful. In our transpartisan analysis, we're saying all 4 quadrants, order right, free right, order left, free left, all 4 quadrants need to be engaged for the nation to come to a decision about what course of action it's going to follow. If anybody tries to exclude any one of those quadrants, they undermine the capacity of the nation to move forward. That's why I think, and our team thinks that the election that we've just been through is a transpartisan blowout. I mean, you know, a significantly limited presidency, a diminished majority of Democrats in the House, a diminished majority of Republicans in the Senate. There's not a single pollster or a single pundit who laid out that as the outcome of this particular election. And we're still up in the air about what's going to happen in the Senate. If those two, now the rationalists, the pundits and the pollsters and those folks are saying Republicans are going to win easily. And there are all kinds of logical reasons why. But there are a whole bunch of people who are saying, wait a minute, the visceral upsurge from the bottom, from the free side, from the freedom choice side, from the people who want to influence things as individuals empirically, is going to give it to the Democrats. And I wouldn't be at all surprised, you know, we'll play this one on January 6th. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we got a split, with one going Democratic and the other going Republican. That would be a fascinating outcome.
Sure would be. Sure would be. All right, so we got Jim Turner bonus time. Go ahead. So keep going. No,
well,
keep going.
You talked about the affidavits, you know, and you have to understand that the system that we live in discounts affidavits completely. They're considered to be anecdotal. You go into a healthcare case. We had 75 affidavits that a particular dietary regimen was helping people resolve their cancer. 75 affidavits. And the FTC judge just excluded them all. No affidavits are allowed. I'm not sure how the judges are handling the affidavits in these election campaigns, but affidavits are considered to be a suspect in the system that we live in. First of all, eyewitness testimony is highly suspect. So what people think they saw is not necessarily what they did see. So you got the first guy saying, I heard them say they were going to switch the votes to Biden in Pennsylvania, and then the next thing we know, he's got another affidavit saying, no, that's not what I heard. Now, who is going to sort that out? The way that our system is organized is we leave it to judges. We do not say that judges come up with the truth. What we say is that given the balance of evidence that we've got before us, we believe this is the way we should act now. And then they also say pretty much, if you don't like it, appeal it. Go to some other judge and ask him. They can do that. It's important to recognize that in some of these cases where the people that are on the side that Trump was cheated are people who then went and withdrew their own complaints. Now, the conspiracy theories say they were under threat, their kids were being threatened, they were all going to be killed if they didn't withdraw. I don't know whether that's true or not, and I don't even care to argue about whether it's true or not, because that's not the issue before us at the moment. If we think that's true, swear out a complaint to the police, and let's get the police on it and see where they go. Now, probably a significant number of people who say there was a conspiracy who get the police to investigate, and the police come out and say, well, we can't see a conspiracy. We'll say, well, the police are part of the conspiracy. One of the most important aspects of what we're talking about is that the red-blue split, to the extent that it actually exists, goes on inside the head of every individual. Every individual can find a place in themselves in which they say, I like the blue stuff. I think it's really important. And then they can go over here and say, I like the red stuff. I think it's important. And then they try to figure out individually how do they integrate the things they like with blue and the things they like with red and come up with a place to stand. They get their place to stand, and then they look at what they're allowed to vote for. And when they look at what they're allowed to vote for, they see a very, very, very narrow, constricted, welcoming electoral process that says you can vote for the side of your brain that's white, side of your brain that's red, or the side of your brain that's blue. You can vote for your racist side or your not racist side or whatever. But there's no way for you to actually vote. Let's just say, for example, you want to say, what I want is I want access to guns and abortion. Who are you going to vote for that says that? There's no one. Hardly. So we have a situation in which our electoral process is maturing. More and more individuals have more and more information, more and more opportunity to share that information, more and more opportunity to refine their choices and make them become very, very granular. And we have a system that is not good enough to count those grains. And so what we're counting is the votes, which are gross compared to the grains of impulse. And there are people all across the country, hundreds and hundreds of them, thousands of them, who've been spending their entire life working to make sure that elections are fair. Now, and that all the votes are counted, and so what we're coming up with is that group in mass is saying these elections are the fairest elections in American history. Now, I could easily accept that fact and say they were still botched. I could accept that, but someone's going to have to decide where we go with this. And I don't think, somebody who has recorded 5 to 7% fewer votes than somebody else officially is in a very strong position to argue that they should win. And I think that the way it's coming out is that's pretty much where all of the people involved in the formal elections process are coming out. To the extent that your argument that there's lots of evidence that there's a problem here needs to be pursued, it should be pursued by the police and the election police and so forth. And you can't hold up the election until that's done. You're going to have to do it after whoever takes over. And then we should pull out all the blocks and all the stops and everything and dredge up every one of those affidavits and do everything we possibly can to find out what in fact happened. Let's go back and add to that all of the affidavits from 2004, and all the stuff that went on in 2000. Pull it all together and let's figure out what can we do to make this electoral system more capable of accepting the subtle nuances that are growing up among the electoral population, among the electors, and be able to have a much more refined way of reflecting what the public wants. The idea that the public is irrevocably divided between red and blue is just not true. It's just not true. All across the country, people who are voting red and voting blue are working together on hundreds and hundreds of projects, making all kinds of things happen at the local level. There's a great book called Our Towns by James Fallows, and his wife, which lay out very clearly how many projects across the country are going on locally where people who are blue and people who are red are working together to address local issues. and we just need to recognize. I mean, in the same election where a red state, a state Florida voted red, it also voted at the same time blue for the minimum wage of $15 an hour. Same state, red and blue. Blue wins the statewide referendum. Red wins the Trump vote. Go over to California. Blue overwhelmingly won the Biden vote, and red overwhelmingly won the vote against making Uber drivers and other gig workers subject to the labor laws. That's a blue position, defeated by the California voters in a state where it was overwhelmingly voting blue. Now you tell me, who are the people that voted for Biden and then voted against creating labor rights for the individuals who drive for Uber, for example? All across the country, there were votes, red and blue state votes, that went for legalizing marijuana and other psychotropic drugs. How does that fit in a red-blue split nation? What we have going on here is an electoral process that puts candidates in office, which is not very subtle. And you got two choices, red or blue. And you got 25 different options that you're trying to put together is what you would like to see happen. And that's why part of why we say that this is a transpartisan blowout, because it did not go unequivocally in either the blue or the red direction. And in fact, what we see is a blue wave and a red wave. And what we see is that wave, those waves affecting things in very different ways inside the same state. Red people vote, the state of Florida votes red on Trump and blue on the minimum wage. Now, is it a blue state or a red state? So that's kind of where we are at our transpartisan analysis.
Excellent points. Excellent points. So that lightning strike to the ground doesn't look like a straight line. Looks like kind of zigzaggy, like it's all over the place.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Great
and
information.
The only people that know what's going on in this country are the mass people in the country who know very, very clearly, and they're just trying to figure out how to express it, and all of the organized systems are in their way. Now, we need the organized systems. We can't just get rid of them. We need them, but they've got to learn how to refine themselves so they can take into account the subtleness of the actual voter.
Now, I want to double back to something that you said that I just want to underline. When you were talking about the John Kerry election dilemma in 2004, I don't remember there being like the same level of issues. Like there was not the same information, there wasn't the same emotion, there wasn't the same coverage, all that sort of stuff. It was kind of like wasn't even there. And then I started to think about, well, you know, there was a lot of things that wasn't there in 2004. Twitter wasn't there in 2004. Facebook really wasn't there that big in 2004. YouTube wasn't there that big in 2004. There were a lot of things that weren't there in 2004. And now I take a look at, so now that's why we have all this information. And what I'm seeing is now they're starting to close those doors. Facebook is starting to close. Okay, well, we don't want the Donald Trump door open. You know, we don't want the vaccine door open. And some of those doors that were open that are now closing. So it's very interesting.
They're trying to close the doors, but that's the concentrated corporate interests trying to maintain their hold. Whenever people have power, as I think it was Galbraith that said, the people who have power would rather destroy everything than give up any of the power that they have. And when you have power, you really, really fight to close people out. But what's happening is because we have to some extent, we have the opportunity for a free market, other things are immediately stepping up and stepping in. So, for example, all the information that is closed out of Twitter or Facebook or YouTube and so forth is actually available on the net. You just can't search for it and find it so easily. But you can find it if you work for it. And so Amazon cuts books out, but the book company, and gosh, I can't remember the name, the one that has the Nook, they have put many books up that Amazon will not put up. What I'm saying is that we, the people, are going to have to learn how to navigate through all of this effort to close things down that these guys are using. They're using the principle of the law that has been used for years by malls to close off free speech in malls. You used to find that people would be campaigning for political issues and so forth in a mall, but the mall owners decided to block that, and so they blocked. All you can get is Girl Scout cookies. You don't get any pro or anti-abortion, pro-choice, anti-abortion stuff. You don't get any of that, but you do get Girl Scout cookies. That's all closed off in the malls. That's the same kind of law they're using for Facebook, Uber, not Uber, but Facebook, YouTube, and so forth. They're using the same laws. Now, anybody that wants to open up a framework that will allow people to get access, they can do it. They can open it up, and there are people who are opening those things up. You got to look for them. George Gilder is, arguing. He's written a book called The End of Google, or Life After Google, actually, and he's saying that this whole system, the Facebook, Google, and so on, is going to collapse because it's built on a false premise. The false premise that he is alluding to is that individuals are contributing all of the labor for those systems free. So we put all the data in there for free, and then they turn around and sell it. It's a business model which he says will not last, and he's going around touting new technologies that are emerging that will in fact undercut those technologies. And the backbone of most of those, the way he's putting it, is the new digital stuff that is being used to create specific identities and new contracts and so forth. All I'm saying is that we're in a very volatile situation. You put your finger right on it. The difference between 2004 and 2020 is massive information flowing. Now that the information is starting to affect things, people who want to control information try to control it, and they're working to control it, and we'll probably go through another round of more new information sources going along and opening things up, and that's going to go back and forth, and we'll see what happens. The idea is to make the electoral system more porous, more subtle, more sensitive to what it is that the public actually wants. So far, it seems to me it's not very subtle. I mean, 80 million to 70 million doesn't seem to me like a clear-cut answer. And so I think what you're saying is correct, but just look at it the way I want to look at it, and I urge people to look at it as a breakout. Individuals are breaking out of having been contained, and now things like Twitter and Facebook are trying to get them back under control, and they're going to break out again, and the individual has got lots of power now to make impact. Now we have to figure out how to get the systems to respond to that power.
Excellent information. Yeah, and just to underline your point about having to find it somewhere else, I was able to watch the whole entire Rudy Giuliani thing on Alex Jones's channel. So he was the only one that was really broadcasting the whole thing. So, you wouldn't find it anywhere else, and he just, because that's what they do. So there's a lot of those types of issues out there as well. Well, I really thoroughly enjoyed today. For those people listening in, you just heard from the great Jim Turner. He runs Citizens for Health. Go to citizens.org, sign up for the newsletter. You can always come back here. And, Jim, I am going to let you wrap it up, and happy Thanksgiving to you and all the important people to you.
Well, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family and to everyone in the audience. And I do want to say what I said at the beginning, and that is this audience and it's a unique audience because it's based in the individual business world. This audience has the opportunity to actually have huge impact on what happens next in the world. And the kinds of things I'm talking about, they are actual integral players within, constantly finding ways, as you were describing with your experience with your company that you worked with, finding ways to move forward effectively, economically, and with your idea system. And I think this audience is extremely important to that effort. And I want to, wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, and good luck, and keep hanging in there with what you're doing, because it is an extremely important part of this breakout of the individual, so that they have the wherewithal, intellectually and physically, monetarily, emotionally, and so forth, to actually live the lives that they want to live. That's what we're all working for here. So, again, happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and to you, Peter, and let's get on to the next phase, and let's see what happens next Friday.
We'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Peter. Bye.
You're welcome.
You've been listening to the Citizens for Health radio show, brought to you by Citizens for Health on BuildingFortunesRadio.com with Jim Turner and Peter Mingils. Thanks for listening. For nearly 2 decades, Citizens for Health has been a nonprofit pioneer in the natural health freedom movement. Go to www.citizens.org to learn more, and always listen in to Building Fortunes Radio, where our special host, Jim Turner, shares crucial information about many of the most important issues that affect your world. Citizens for Health provides over 100,000 supporters with consumer news, action alerts, and opportunities to take action. So listen in, get involved, and help spread the word. Be sure to check out the BuildingFortunesRadio.com website to hear more Citizens for Health segments with Jim Turner and Peter Mingils, and read about what's new on www.citizens.org. It's been our privilege to have you listen in. Jim Turner, Peter, and I want to say thanks for listening and ask you to go spread the word, tell a friend, join our newsletter, and go make a difference in your world.